Hey guys, and welcome. You may notice I'm a bit haggard and tired. I'm halfway through my morning routine, and I wanted to let you know about this book, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. You'll notice I'm also keeping my voice down a bit because my housemate is asleep and I don't want to wake him up. So, why am I telling you about this book? It's because it is so inspirational. I just had to get it out there. It's really inspired me to kind of let you know, and also encapsulates in about 3 or 4 small chapters or stanzas. Not doing poetry. Small chapters about why I do what I do and the importance of goal setting and also choosing your mindset. So there's a couple of definitions we need to get out of the way to begin with. One of them is what he calls provisional existence. This is basically living only to survive, okay, or surviving as opposed to living. So just keep that in your mind in case I mention it. And the other thing is spirituality. And for me personally, what I define as spirituality is becoming present. So without further ado, the first thing he talks about is about like deciding to be or deciding how to act. And this is like just phenomenally important. Like I don't believe you have a choice to sort your to change your mindset, but I do believe you have a choice to change your actions, and by changing your actions you can change your mindset. So I'm just going to go through little quotes. There may have been, he's talking about being in the concentration camp at this time. Okay, they may have been few in number, but they offer sufficient proof that everyone. I'll start that again. They may have been few in number, but they offer sufficient proof that everything can be taken from man but one thing, the last of human's freedom, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. And there were always choices to make. Every day, every hour offered the opportunity to make a decision which determined whether you would or would not submit to those powers which threatened to rob you of yourself, your inner freedom. Right, at this point, if you're watching this, there is no way you are in a worse situation than this. And this is a man who went through concentration camps for years. It was just an awful situation. So just bear in mind where this is coming from. Next thing he goes on to say, even though conditions such as lack of sleep, insufficient food, and various mental stresses may suggest that the inmates were bound to react in certain ways, in the final analysis it becomes clear that the sort of person the prisoner was a result. The sort of person the prisoner became was the result of an inner decision, and not the result of the camp influences alone. Fundamentally, therefore, any man can, even under such circumstances, decide what shall become of him, mentally and spiritually. So it's not the outside conditions, it's not the shit place you're in at the moment, it's not what's happening to you that decides who you are, it's what you decide to be. Okay, is this spiritual freedom? Let me turn the page. Which cannot be taken away, that makes life meaningful and purposeful. Okay, so essentially what we do in adversity is not going to crush you, but it's a test, and it's also an opportunity to perform well. If there's meaning in life at all, there must be meaning in suffering. Suffering is an ineradicable part of life, even as fate and death. Without suffering and death, human life cannot be complete. The way in which a man accepts his fate and all the suffering it entails, the way in which he takes up his cross, gives him ample opportunity, even in the most difficult circumstances, to add a deeper meaning to life. Like, just stop and think where this is coming from. He's under the worst circumstances possibly ever endured, and he's talking about this is a chance to become more spiritually, emotionally connected. Okay. It may remain brave, dignified and unselfish, or in the bitter fight for self-preservation he may forget his human dignity and become no more than an animal. Here lies the chance for a man to make use of... I told you I'm just waking up. Here lies the chance for a man either to make use of or to forgo the opportunities of attaining the moral values that make it a difficult situation may afford him. Yeah, like that's a huge sentence. Okay. So he goes on to talk about goal setting, essentially, or the importance of having something to live for. So he's already talked about you've got a shit situation. So what are you going to do about it? What are you going to change? How are you going to decide what you do, okay? Decide on your actions, decide on your mental clarity. Okay. The big thing here is that if you don't have an end, then there's uncertainty, and the uncertainty in this situation is what kills people. In your situation, it's decide whether you're successful, okay? Former prisoners, when writing or relating their experiences, agree that the most depressing influence of all was that a prisoner could not know how long his term of imprisonment would be, okay? That's huge. I just want to check the camera's still recording. Excellent, it is. Okay. It's going to be a long passage now, but just I'll try and embolden and exaggerate the bits that are important. Okay, with the end of uncertainty, there came the uncertainty of the end. That's a cool sentence, that's why I highlighted this. A man who could not see the end of his provisional existence, it's that provisional existence again, was not able to aim at an ultimate goal in life. He sees living for the future in contrast to a man in normal life. Okay, so it's that goal, having that thing to live for, having that thing to drive towards is going to get you there. Just getting by in a day-to-day life, you're never going to be truly happy. Okay. Therefore, the whole structure of his inner life changed. Signs of decay set in which we know from other areas of life. The unemployed worker, for example, is in a similar position. His existence has become provisional, and in a certain sense, he cannot live for the future or aim for a goal. So just get a goal, find what means a lot to you, and that is your end goal. Like, you've got to get to that, because otherwise you're just not going to want to live, okay? Want to live, want to progress, sorry. In camp, a small time unit, a day for example, filled with hourly tortures and fatigue appeared endless. A larger time unit, perhaps a week, seemed to pass very quickly. So you might know that now, you might know that feeling. Does it feel like a day takes forever to go past, but does a week just go by like that? Clicking with the left hand, not gonna work. That is a sign of a non-optimal mindset, okay? If that day goes by very slowly, but the week is just like flying by, that's a sign you need to change things. Okay. Okay, this is the big section now. This is like, he talks about the past and how being in the past or constantly thinking about the past and your suffering is going to hold you back, okay? Whereas you need to just focus on the future and focus on that goal. And also, there's a bit of dichotomy here, because obviously being present is very important, but if you can focus on getting to that goal and the steps to getting to that goal, you'll have a huge advantage. Okay, a man who let himself decline because he could not see any future goal found himself occupied with retrospective thoughts. In a different connection, we have already spoken of the tendency there was to look into the past, to help make the present with all its horrors less real. But in robbing the past of its reality, there lay a certain danger. It became easy to overlook the opportunities to make something positive of camp life, opportunities which really did exist. Right, let's stop there. I was going to read all the way through, but just listen to that a bit. Opportunities which really did exist. This man's in a concentration camp and he's looking for opportunities to better himself. Regarding our provisional existence, as unreal was in itself an important factor in causing the prisoners to lose their life, their hold on life, everything in a way became pointless. Such people forgot that often it was just such an exceptionally difficult external situation which gives a man the opportunity to grow spiritually beyond himself. Instead of taking the camp's difficulties as a test of their inner strength, they did not take their life seriously and despised it as something of no consequence. They preferred to close their eyes and to live in the past. Life for such people became meaningless. Again, like, whatever shit's going down, it's a chance to get a hold of life and think, this is a chance to develop my inner strength. Naturally, only a few people were capable of reaching great spiritual heights, but a few were given the chance to attain human greatness even through their apparent worldly failure and death, an accomplishment which in ordinary circumstances they would never have achieved. Like, this is a real opportunity having that. Like, only because these people went through such suffering were they able to get to such a height eventually. Okay. Yet in reality, there was an opportunity and a challenge. one could make a victory of those experiences, turning life into an inner triumph, or one could ignore the challenge and simply vegetate, as did the majority of the prisoners. Okay, do you want to be like the majority, or do you want to be like the 1 or 2% that step up and think, fuck it, I'm going to do this? Okay, the last little bit, he goes on to talk about how every day they had to walk to or march to lay the train tracks. It was miles and miles in the cold, in just rags. He had sores on his feet, and he says he was almost in tears. I became disgusted with the state of affairs, which compelled me daily and hourly to think of, before this, sorry, he was talking about how he was just so in that state of sadness and pain, and he was just inflicting the misery on himself. I became disgusted with the state of affairs, which compelled me daily and hourly to think of only such trivial things. I forced my thoughts to turn to another subject. Suddenly I saw myself standing on the platform of a well-lit, warm and pleasant lecture room. In front of me sat an attentive audience on comfortable upholstered seats. I was giving a lecture on the psychology of the concentration camp. So he's got this future goal, okay? He's started working towards that future goal, and suddenly, if you read on, everything's not so bad. Okay. By this method, I succeeded somehow in rising above the situation, above the sufferings of the moment, and I observed them as if they were already of the past. Both I and my troubles became the object of an interesting psychoscientific study undertaken by myself. What does Spinoza say in Ethics? I'm not going to do the disjustice or injustice of reading Latin, but the translation which written here, I'm not that clever. Emotion, which is suffering, ceases to be suffering as soon as we form a clear and precise picture of it. Okay. The last thing I want to close on is the prisoner who had lost his faith in the future. His future was doomed. Okay. So set goals, understand why it means a lot to you, and make the decision to change.